Bill Bender joining us right now, of course, of the Sporting News. Bill, we respect and love you, so I'm going to let you know right off the rip that Gaz is in full Hooter gear outfit after losing a bracket wager to my 13-year-old daughter.
That's okay. I would make fun of him, but, my son had a better bracket than I did. He had Gonzaga in the championship game. I was nowhere near that.
Well, you didn't have to dress up like a Hooters girl, Bill, so I think it's not even.
Well, no, he's 5. I mean, that's
okay. All right, we're on common ground then. Bill Bender, of course, he's our guy. We go to him whenever we can with any college hoops questions. So let's talk about Gonzaga. How could a Gonzaga run happen, like in, let's say, college football, in the world of college football?
Well, yeah, I wrote about that for us, and I appreciate you mentioning it, because I think the only way it could is that a team would have to go undefeated twice. And I'm talking about like a group of 5 school, at Houston. Like last year, I thought, had Houston gone undefeated after beating Oklahoma and Louisville, it would have been interesting to see if they would have snagged that 4th spot over Washington.
But does it have to be a long-term thing with Houston? Like, would Houston have to be successful for 5, 10, 15 years like Gonzaga's been for the national recognition to be there for that program?
Well, I think a team has to go undefeated twice. And I say that because, to me, if we're talking like a comparison, I think Boise State and Gonzaga are very synonymous. Boise State's been good for 15, 16 years. I really thought in 2010 they had that shot when they they were coming off an undefeated season. They beat Virginia Tech in the opener. They were loaded. And, eventually they lose to Colin Kaepernick in Nevada. But, when you're a group of 5 school, you have no margin for error. And I think you have to do it twice.
Bill Bender with us right now of the Sporting News. So, yeah, because I guess the way I always looked at it, because I always, I play way too many video games. You'd have to start in like the top 10, right? You'd have to already be a top 10 school before you would even have a chance at a mid-major level. I
think so. Yeah, and I've won a national championship with Ohio on the Bobcats on a video game, but it took like 4 years. But
Toledo Rockets.
Yeah, there you go. So, I mean, it's not easy. I think it has to start with the notoriety. Like, for example, I would give you another one. Western Michigan, let's say they had won the Cotton Bowl, P.J. Fleck had stayed, and they had Corey Davis and Zach Terrell back. It'd be interesting to see where they would start the season, especially knowing that they play USC early. So you got to have a combination of a loaded team, a high ranking, and probably – a couple big boys on your schedule that you can knock off to get that notoriety.
Bill, I was really interested in the article you wrote about former New York Knick Patrick Ewing taking the job at Georgetown. I'm a Syracuse fan, so I've been conflicted about this. I love the rivalry, but I think Ewing can do a good job. What do you think could be some of the toughest tasks for Ewing to accomplish now being the head man with the Hoyas?
Well, I think he just has to bring that swagger back. Like, I don't know about you guys, but Georgetown hasn't really been on the national radar seriously, other than a couple high seeds in a while since going to the Final Four in 2007. And the common ingredient for me, at least going back all the way to Ewing to now, is they're really good when they have that big man in the middle. So will Patrick Ewing bring in a couple big-time recruits? Will they have a true big guy? And for people that say it can't be done in this environment, well, Kentucky did it with Anthony Davis, and Purdue had a pretty good big man in Caleb Swanigan last year. So it'd be interesting to see what happens there.
Bill Bender of the Sporting News with us right now. 104.5 The Team was not scared off by Lady Gaz. So we have ultimate respect for you now, Bill. But you bring up recruiting. Gaz has mentioned this a million times on the show. Patrick Ewing, he's been the center of his own universe. He's been the biggest star in New York. Can he humble himself, or will he have to go out and recruit? Can he get it done?
Well, yeah, because somebody, sent me a couple messages yesterday. They're saying, well, 18-year-old recruits don't know who Patrick Ewing is. Now, I think that's debatable because he's one of the greatest centers of all time. But, how can he recruit? That'll be a big discussion. I honestly thought he'd be an NBA coach by now. I thought that a long time ago when I was an intern in Washington, D.C., when he was an assistant with the Wizards. So, I think that'll be the key. And, again, playing in the Big East, if you kind of look at the comparison, I mean, Chris Mullin, it's taken time at St. John's, but they've made progress over the last 2 years, and it'll be interesting to see where they're at in year 3.
Bill Bender joining us, and I'm going to ask you about the dunk contest video. Levack and I watched it like months before you joined us the last time, and we see you just impersonating these great all-time NBA dunks. How long did that video take to do, and did you really get hurt with your back there at the end?
I tweaked it a little bit. My wife filmed it in the driveway. It was snowing that day, and I kind of ran it by my editor. I mean, that Little Tikes hoop is my favorite toy of all time, because when I was a kid, my buddies and I, we played on them forever, and I was like, well, let's try to do a couple of these. The Harold Miner dunk, I don't know how he did that on a 10-foot rim to this day. I mean, it's one of the most amazing things I've ever seen.
Well, Bill, it's funny because we're in the office, and guys like, you got to see this. Right when I saw the Harold Miner dunk, I was like, if he really tries this, he's going to get hurt. Guys like, he'll be fine. And literally, you limp off afterwards. I'm like, I know when Baby Jordan dunks, what happens.
Well, no, and it was fun. It was fun to do that and try something different. But, for me, that was back to the slam dunk contest and you guys will definitely appreciate it. I mean, growing up in that era, the dunk contest was a marquee main event. I don't know that it is anymore, but I mean, remembering, Miner and Sean Kemp, and I mean, I remember watching Jordan and Wilkins go at it, and it was like one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
Yesterday, you were on Outside the Lines on ESPN. Tell us a little bit about what it's like on Outside the Lines and maybe an unknown fact about that long-running show on ESPN.
Well, I wasn't on there very long, but I was very nervous. And, Bob Lee was as nice as can be on and off camera. So, it was a good experience. My wife helped put together, we were kind of putting together Skype at the last minute. I was very ill-prepared for that because, I have, obviously, if anybody who's watched it, I obviously have a face for radio and print for sure. So, but I appreciate you guys watching for sure.
Bill Bender with us at Sporting News. We appreciate you. And as we get closer to the draft, I'm sure we'll be picking your brain pretty hard.
Absolutely. No shame in losing the brackets, guys. Thank you for having me on, and better luck next year to all of us, right?
But you don't understand, Bill. I have to keep, he's in my line of sight.
Well, I don't envy you. I'm sorry.
Bill, we appreciate you and have a great day.
Take care.
Hey, thanks, guys.